Yeah.
Substitutes and shortages, things that
Okay.
could touch the budget in terms of like how much you're looking for. Incentives, like, not things that are
All of the
necessarily.
meetings are on.
It's not necessarily, sorry, school based.
Streaming, okay.
That was, I guess it is helpful to understand. That. Substitutes and shortages. Incentives, not things that are
All of
necessarily.
the meetings are on.
It's not necessarily.
Streaming, okay.
That was, I guess it is helpful to understand. That. Substitutes and shortages. Incentives.
Exactly.
Let's call our meeting to order, the first meeting for September. Our meeting is I'd like to also put, board law is still doing the secretarial thing, so would you call roll to board law?
Yes. Just a second to pull up the. All right. Yeah, bear with me if I have to remember some of the new names on here. But Betsy Rockman,
Here,
Vicky Rafferty. Lloyd Baker. Here. Nadia, who's her name? Is it not right? What's her name? Okay. Yep. Are we staying? Okay, yeah.
I think I did it.
Susan Barber,
Here.
I'm here. Kyle Posey.
Here.
And then, okay, great. Lydia Rivera.
Here.
And Joe Alvarado. Not here. He said okay. Student Morgan Knight. And we only have one student for now.
all right, so we have four, which is great. We can move forward. The approval of the agenda, you have the agenda in front of you. Okay, all right. And
Everybody have an agenda?
Mr. Rosenbaum might suggest we'd like to add something to the agenda. So under information items, he wants to discuss or bring up a concern. Such about.
Just understand. Yeah, adding, who's responsible for, what can be done about, having enough substitutes. And just like in general, yeah, like the current moment we're in.
So let's just put under substitutes or adequate number of substitutes, just add that to the.
Okay, never mind.
All right, so we added that. Do we have a motion to, or any questions about the agenda? Anything else you want to add? Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda. Second? All right. All those in favor of approving this agenda for today? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great. Okay. Approval of previous minutes. We have those.
They're posted on the website.
Okay. Anybody have a chance to look at that or? on our go-to website, on the school website?
I can,
Can you just like briefly, just review
yeah,
it? Okay.
I can also put it up if you want to put it up, like, this house. Basically, it was going over the new positions. Which we added Joel Alvarado as a parent seat. Nadia as a community member, swing seat member, Lydia Rivera, and student appointee of Morgan Knight. We decided to move officer elections to today. We approved public comment procedure. There's 20 minutes available at the end of every meeting for public comment. And approved the calendar and norms. We talked about coronavirus protocols. Things of like, the raised around like lunch and what happens when it rains. It's going to be because the whole gym is alive. We mentioned like going over the number of cases, the challenges of contact tracing. Teachers offered up like what can we do to be supportive around encouraging vaccinations. We discussed map testing and the map testing windows, which we have now concluded our first one, and then there'll be another in winter, December 29th, December 17th, another in March, 7th and 28th. There's an adjusted schedule that we went through. This thing is giving an overview of like the different interventions that we would have. And then public comments. We had a few people speak last time. Just with ideas around engaging communities of color, in particular around vaccines. Lisa Fellow. Again, like visited tons of labs with the school and yeah, we had some with their students under 18 needing parents approval in the state of Georgia. You do need parental approval if you're under 18. That's all.
Any additions? Anything we forgot? Changes to comments, questions read out? Okay. Now we have a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting. Second. All those in favor of approving the minutes from August meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, great. Okay, so let's move on to election of officers. We're going to elect the chair, the vice chair, secretary, and cluster rep. So does anyone, is there anything I can just ask for nominations
And hi, everybody. I'm Diane Jacoby. I'm the school governance liaison. I'm one of those nice people that says all those nice things. So you can self-nominate. If somebody else nominates you, you don't want to do it, you have the right to politely decline the nomination. Nominations do not have to be seconded, and everybody only gets one vote per position. So if multiple people are running for a position, you just vote for which person you would want.
Could you remind us of the rules, or sorry, the rules, and just like briefly what they do?
The roles are chair, and the chair's position is you're kind of like the middleman in that you help coordinate things between the principal and the rest of the team. You meet with the principal to set the agenda, you request agenda items for the rest of the team. And the most important part is that you lead meetings. The vice chair is in charge of ensuring parliamentary procedure is followed. I have a motion, I have a second, ensuring everybody gets a chance to speak to all items. And if the chair is not present, then the vice chair is the secretary is responsible for taking minutes and ensuring that the meeting laws are followed. That means that you make sure that the agendas and minutes are posted to the website. That does not mean necessarily that you have to do it. It means that you work either with the webmaster or you can do it depending on how Midtown has their website set up. And then the cluster representative can also be the chair, vice chair, or secretary. But the cluster representative's job is to go to the cluster team meetings, which I think maybe one is 4 scheduled for this year. And report out at the cluster team meetings, this is what's happening at Midtown High. And then bring back a report to submit to the GO team after those meetings. So that the rest of the GO team knows what was discussed at that cluster advisory team. Any questions? Thank you.
And if you're elected, chair, you take over right from there. I don't mean my next meeting.
Like in 4:17.
For all these officer positions, we have templates and scripts, and we will generate anything you need to make you feel as supported as. So don't think that we're just like throwing you into the deep end of the pool and saying how. The term goes until June 30th of 2022. It's a one-year term.
Okay.
I just advocate on behalf briefly of last year. I'd been to 2 GO team meetings. I ended up getting elected, and then I chose to be secretary, was to nominate myself for secretary. I think Mr. Herrera nominated me. It doesn't take that long to learn the rule. Like it'll take maybe 30 minutes of your time to figure out what you're doing, and then it becomes routine. It does kind of, I think we all have been experienced in meetings. It does kind of hold you accountable to being prepared and being a little bit more engaged and invested. If we're going to spend this time together once a month, like for those of you that are on the fence of it, I think it does add a layer of like personal commitment when you have some responsibility with a role. So I would encourage you all to volunteer yourself, and certainly to have transition of the secretary role.
He's saying, don't you dare nominate me.
Students are full members of the GO teams now, so they can be officers also.
All right.
I volunteered for the cluster regiment, did it last year, pretty familiar on what to do. How to continue, so I'm willing to do.
Okay. Any other nominations for cluster rep?
You should just ask, is everybody consent? People need to consent to that person being
The nomination.
to the nominee, to the
So is
person.
that like a motion? Or just
Just, do we have consent for pilot to be cluster? Does anybody
just
consent?
consent?
Yes.
Yes.
And how should that be recorded?
You can, ask if anybody dissents.
Does anybody dissent?
Okay, then unanimous consent.
Unanimous consent for Kyle Brother to be.
They have to give everybody a chance to say no.
Right, makes sense.
Great, okay. All right, let's go to the chair. We have nominations for chair. We can self-nominate and nominate someone else.
I'll do the chair.
Okay. Boyd Baker. Boyd Baker self-nominates. Are there other nominations?
Sure, somebody.
So, are we in consent?
Just,
Yeah, okay.
all in favor, say aye.
With
Opposed, say
Boyd,
nay.
Boyd Baker being our chair.
Aye.
Any dissenters? Unanimous support.
Okay. Our vice chair. We have nominations for vice chair. The vice chair assists the go-to chair providing leadership. Okay.
I won't plan on doing so.
Now, yeah. Nominations. Someone else. Is there do we have consent for Nadia? Or vice chair?
Yes.
Any dissent? Great. Secretary. Those moments, it's done a great job.
I will say in favor of it that you do get, there is power in being able to ask ask questions and just being like, how do I record that? What exactly are we talking about? And like, if you do have a voice in that way, it is, it's a little bit of logistics, like before and after a meeting. But I would encourage. some-
Gordon, would you like to do something? Or is that not up for you? I want to force it on you. Because we're gonna have another person wrap it up and do it together. You want to? Okay. All right. Any, dissent or all in consent from Margaret and I to the secretary? Any dissent? All right, okay. And hopefully next meeting we'll have someone, the student rep, the other student rep needs to be an elected person from the student body. So that's why it's taking a while. We do have elections tomorrow. So I think that done tomorrow. Okay.
So they're running for their team rep.
No, but that's a good question based on what I said. No, it just has to be somebody elected by the student body,
Or some.
office, student government. So there'll be more than someone else working together. Okay, all right, so that's it. Well, then we can take over. As the,
Okay.
so basically what I have is kind of all the next stuff,
Yeah.
but the discussion items and all.
Well, I will bring them up and let you fill in the blanks since I'm not
Okay.
prepared. So discussion item, planning, data, and funding.
Okay, so what Paul and I have kind of worked on is a presentation to kind of try to encapsulate a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot on the district level, school level, a lot of plans, strategic planning going on from the cluster. Rep and kind of want to let you have a little thing in there too. But cluster planning, there's the go team planning, there's the district planning, there's the school improvement plan. There's a lot of things going on that inform each other. So just want to go through some data and things that are going on that'll help me introduce what's going on here. So a huge strategic planning process going on for the district, as I said, and everywhere. So you've got a district plan, which is based on, this is the district strategic plan, the APS 5, we're going to go through all this equity. And then we've got our cluster plan. And then we've got the Midtown High School plan going on. A lot of planning going on. So this is the APS strategic plan. All of this is on the website for APS, the district website, but this is what we're all focused on at Midtown and in the district this year. The priorities: fostering academic excellence for all, building a culture of student support, equipping and empowering leaders and staff, and creating a system of support for schools. The district has equity commitments for all of us, including access to high quality instructional programming and materials, leveraging school improvement to advance equity, integrating social, emotional, and academic practices, ensuring equitable learning environments, increasing access to effective leaders and teachers, ensuring equitable funding, partnering with families and communities. So we're looking at the strategic initiatives or data, looking at data, and we were doing that with the map testing, the best screening that we're doing, curriculum instruction, signature programming, full child and intervention, personalized learning, strategic staff support, equitable resource allocation, collective action, engagement, and empowerment. That's a lot. I know that is an awful lot that we're trying to do a piece at a time, as well as do all at the same time. So this is our mission for this year, trying to incorporate all of these things into what we do in the classroom and what we do for kids to engage. So I'll let Carla talk a little about this. We've had a cluster meeting, the cluster advisory team meeting last week, and that was just an overview, but Carla can talk a little bit about about kind of what we're gonna do on the cat bubble. And I also, on your agenda, you're gonna see a little bit of the staple of the programming, signature programming, which all goes into the, Paula, do you want to talk just a minute about what's going on cat-wise?
So for CAT, as Dr. Bachman said, we had a meeting last week, and the biggest charge that the CAT team will be working on this year is the signature programming. Because I think it's Grady and Carver, or Midtown, sorry, and Carver both had good college and career readiness. That program currently, the deciding body, so to speak, elected body over that program is going through some restructuring. And they have not given a date in which they will be finished with that. Which means it's Carver and Midtown will have to pick some other program to be the overarching signature program for the clusters. So that's the biggest charge that CAT will be working on this year. We're having to put together a timeline and kind of determine what the signature program moving forward will be, because there's a time frame in which you have to report what the signature program will be. Because the college and career readiness is not given a date on when they'll have all of their things aligned, we cannot wait for them, or we would expire out. And expiring out would not be good, because that's, of course, funding, and that goes along with some of the district's programming. So we do need to decide as a cluster and come up with the whole cluster plan around the program that's selected. So that will be the biggest charge here coming up for the CAT team. And we will have to, they've kind of broken it down into stages and steps so that we're not so overwhelmed. Most of the clusters do not have to do all of the work that we will be charged with. They'll be just kind of revising and brushing up, tweaking things. But for the Carver and the Midtown cluster, we are going to be creating and rewriting the whole design and plan from the top to bottom. After we decide what the actual program will be, whether that's STEM or STEAM or whatever, we'll have to design it. So if you flip your paper, there's a timeline on how things will kind of lay out. So when we meet again, we'll be looking at the cluster plan and development. We'll have some advisory team meetings. I think, if I'm not mistaken, by the end of the year, we need to have it done.
It's confirmed.
We have to have it done. So got a lot of work ahead of us, but I'm fairly certain that we can get it done.
So, what's the criteria for the selection, whether it's STEM or STEAM?
Well, I think that as a cluster, we're going to discuss what the needs are for the different schools in the cluster and what would best fit the kids of the Midtown cluster. I don't know that there's any parameters. I think we can kind of select what we want. However, we really need to hone in on what are our priorities as a cluster and what do our kids need to determine which would be better and what those programs offer. I would think that when we look at those two programming, let's say we're looking at STEAM and we're looking at STEM, we kind of look at what are the qualifications to continue with those programs. I think would be important. You want to know, what kind of charge are you taking on, because if it's like IB or something like that, there's different trainings that teachers have to keep up. There's work that goes along with it. So you want to know what path is going to be for teachers in schools moving forward. So I think, in my opinion, I think we kind of look at what's the major points that the cluster wants to get for students? And how do we, where do we see ourselves in a couple of years and growing? I think to make sure that we're hitting those when we're looking at the program. Dr. Brown?
Yes, so we'll look at where we're strong in the cluster, what are our strengths, and then what are our needs. Again, it's a K to 12, or pre-K to 12 decision. And then it's rolling it out, it's choosing the coordinator for the school, that kind of thing. It's a process, but we really have to consider this is a cluster decision. It's not a midterm decision. I have to keep that in mind too, that, what Hope Hill is doing is important to what midterm's doing, because, just, that's how we did it before, when we chose career, project career. It's a really robust process.
So everything will generate from the CAT up, then we don't, we obviously have a representative, we have a voice, but we're
There'll
not
be cluster
charged.
there'll be meetings that are open, community meetings.
Right. But as a go-to, we are not charged with,
Decide.
for making a decision what we think we should be to feed it back down or anything
Right.
else.
We'll,
We're just part of the general.
Carla and I will bring it forth.
Okay.
And the next meeting is the 6th of October.
I do want to point out that, there are guidelines for getting the certification. And a lot of schools choose to go with them and then add on to it, because a lot of the qualifications needed for STEAM are within. So you don't necessarily have to go full with all the way and we can, from the beginning, it can be a gradual process. Considering that this strategic plan and cluster plan is on ballot till 2025. So adding on to STEAM may be something that can be done in the mention later on, all of it doesn't have to be done yesterday. But we're kind of behind the other schools that have already gotten certified.
Right.
And as Tyler did mention, there are funding associated with meeting certain levels of completion. And it can affect funding or
So I guess the other question that I have is that, is it STEM or STEAM, or are we looking at other things as well?
You can look at anything. This is the time to have that dialogue and conversation. I think in the district, we do have STEAM, we do have STEM, we have IB. I think there's some of the options that I'm aware of. So we can do, we can have a conversation about all of those things. As Dr. Bachman said, it's a cluster decision. So we do have to keep, in mind, how does this affect pre-K through 12? And what is it going to look like at every level? For the certifications, just the rollout, all things. But we can't have the conversation about any programming that we want.
Yeah, in a cluster that's just like extremely arts rich, I just couldn't imagine going with STEM as opposed to STEAM. I get maybe adding it on later. And I get that the workload at the front end could be heavy. But I just think like this cluster, not going with STEAM, that would be the rudest thing to me. I think it, and I'm by no means am I an expert on this. Like I barely know what the actual two stands for, but I do, from what I am familiar with, when you are in an environment that is, like I said, that has that culture of arts, I think that it would not be that far of a stretch for us to add that on from the get-go. That's just my opinion. I know that's probably not, we're not truly talking about all of this today, but I'm just kind of thinking like long term, just, if I get certain qualifications, we have to teach certain classes, and then that may mean adding on extra arts teachers, whatever it is, so then we're talking about, then we are getting funding and all of those things. So I get where we're coming from, definitely follow the same, that you have these extra, it's a lot at the beginning, but I just, that's kind of what I'm thinking, just because of what we do in this cluster, it just makes sense to me.
I also think that you all have to be mindful and maybe the teacher representatives, not the top teachers, because that was when you think STEAM versus STEM, you are asking the teachers to incorporate all those elements within their courses. And it's in a pandemic when everyone's already stressed. So I'm not saying one way or another, I'm not even voting. I just want to, since I'm part of presenting this information, I want to give a clear picture, and if you all want to start looking at it, you can search qualifications for STEM certification. Georgia to start an idea of what those expectations are.
So again, can I make the assumption that after this October 6th Midtown meeting, then you will have the information for our go-to meeting to maybe kind of have a better idea of what we're looking at?
Yeah, next steps, yes.
Okay.
And then at that point, is the go team, like, is our job, how does this flesh out? Some at the
Yeah,
school level?
because it's funding, which is a big job of the funding and staffing, personnel, requisites.
And strategic planning.
Right.
It's strategic planning as well, so the strategic plan that we're going to review, hopefully, the other slide today, it has to be changed effective 2022 after the new cluster strategic plan has been solidified. So, yes, it is a lift on the voting to align the strategic plan of the school with the priority measures with what the cluster team.
I just in terms of this, I wasn't here when this decision was made originally to choose college and career. It's my third year at Midtown. I have, as soon as the school board meeting happened, immediately through different channels, in person, group messages, text messages, there was starting to be some sense of like, wait, what? Like our signature program is changing. And I think it's really important that we're mindful of the fact that like teachers are really concerned about this, and that this is just my perspective. But like there is a feeling of like I watched that board meeting and we're here at a go-team meeting. You know, we're here because we've been told that by the district that teacher voices matter, community voices matter, these sorts of things. And I'm watching it. The experience was several slides about changes the district was making, and then on like some random slide, 20 slides in, it says, oh, and Carver and Midtown are gonna have to change their signature program. It's been left up to the principal as STEM or STEAM or IB, and they both chosen STEM or STEAM. That'll be ironed out in the next couple of months. And then they went on to say that they'd be doing community engagement on that choice from October to December, after saying what the choice was. And I think that I need to name that here for me personally, but also for a lot of the people who've been a part of these conversations that invested tons of hours in like evaluating that college and career was the choice we wanted to make. We have built out a ton of programming as a school. A lot of people sunk time in. And so like there's two layers to this in my mind. It's like number one layer is just a lot of people sunk time in, and then to have the things move so quickly has like an overall paralyzing effect on anything we do, like no teams, because like, what does this matter if all the things we talk about here can just be like switch can be flipped over the summer, that it feels like the rug gets pulled out, it breaks trust. This is a problem when we're trying to democratize governance in any way. But then, and then the second thing is just, I feel in this moment, it's okay, I have a lot of questions about like how we ended up here. And I want to inject a little bit of like just suspicion and okay, well, the district has said this and this and this, so like we just need to go about this. I mean, to me, it's like, did they bring up anything at the meeting around, like, so this governing body or this accrediting agency is going through readjustment. Was there an elaborate search for other accrediting agencies? Are there other accrediting agencies that manage college and career?
My understanding, that was the first that I heard of it when we had our meeting last week. the PAC meeting. To my understanding of the research that I've done, that is the only governing body. I could be wrong, but to my knowledge, that is the only governing body, the college and career readiness. I don't know of any others.
No,
We-
that's right, that's
That's the only one I thought.
right.
I was not given any more information than what we've said is that, and I don't know when that information was given to the district. Or if, when they looked into, okay, and they could have been working on trying to recertify. And then at some point, you gotta cut bait and say, listen, we need to know if you're going to have these things in place to be able to recertify, because we're gonna run out of time, and then the district would get hit for that. And
It
then
goes
that's,
into the charter system.
The-
it's part of the
right.
charter.
so,
From your understanding of it, did this start at the state level? The state level set criteria for local district charters. And so then the district says, okay, we need to rewrite our charter and include this new stipulation. Or did the district say, we as a district want and value accrediting agencies outside of APS? And so we've added this new level in to like,
I
was
don't
it
think it
district or
was a
state?
new level. I think that with that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, going through that.
So it's just because it was always in the
You
charter,
still have
but
to,
now our charter, the accrediting agency is like going to reorganize, so therefore it's like disqualified college and career. So it's really like the blame here is this organization is changing issues.
well, and I don't know that the organization, well, I guess the hierarchy of the organization and their restructuring is going to change. However, what that looks like, we don't know. We don't know if that's going to align back to the regular college and career readiness, or if they're going to align it as something else. We don't have that answer. When they went through the charter, well, I don't know what it's called.
The renewal process.
The renewal, the charter renewal. There are certain things. Right, there are certain things that we have to do during that renewal process. Part of that is that the signature programming has to be up to date. As it relates, we were set to, we kind of got caught in the crossfire because we were set to renew. And at the same time that we were set to renew, they were going through a restructuring.
I see.
So at that point, we do have to make a decision, the district has to make a decision on how to maneuver, because if we wait and say, well, we do like college and career readiness, this is what we want, and we wait out the clock, then you run the risk of A, them changing it because they're restructuring it, we don't know what that's going to look like, and B, it may come down to they may not be done in time. And then you're talking about your accreditation, for charter systems, so you don't want that either.
Is there an accrediting body for STEM and STEAM? And
Yes.
who is that? Do you know?
And for IB.
And for-
Well, I know IB is, but that's a separate entity
There's
altogether,
rules.
because,
It goes to the state.
so it's a
Then
state-based.
it's STEM/STEAM,
Right.
we're asking those two separate entities and not really like the application. There's two separate applications, but the part is just one spot.
Okay.
And so just to summarize then, the language in the charter hasn't changed. What changed is that the accrediting organization or agency is going through a restructuring, and it happened at the same time where, like, for us to be compliant with APS's charter, we don't have the ability to get accredited because that's accredited. So, okay, so.
Right, part of the charter, part of our charter just in general is that we will have these programs, these things.
Right.
High schools want clusters. And, so to go along with the charter, but we have to do this. It's a charter that's been approved by the state.
So we along with an organization that wasn't necessarily going to be here forever.
And by the way, thank you, Tyler, for like, and all this, because I'm trying to like figure out, I've heard a couple different times, and honestly, like a lot of different information spread really quickly amongst teachers of like, did we fail at this program? Like, did we not
I
meet
don't
our
think
goals?
it's not
you
a
know?
pass-fail
Right,
situation.
yeah, I get
It's just,
it.
they decided to restructure for whatever reason. I don't know the answer to why the restructure came about, but they have decided to restructure. We don't know what that's going to look like, and they haven't given that information, to my knowledge, to the principals or anyone. They just said that it's being restructured, and they don't have an end date on when that, they're going to be able to determine when it's going to be complete.
And to be mindful of the fact that within that charter application to the state, there are probably like anything deadlines or timelines set as to when you will have your institution certified with whatever those different programs are. Unfortunately, a pandemic hit that no one could predict, right? And so the expediency of which that governing body can do these answers is probably impacted by the current state of the world. And so therefore, decisions need to be made to move forward.
So are there organizations, or sorry, are there possible signature programs beyond STEAM, STEM, and IB? Because like my first thought is, like we are a school of history, being a communications magnet school. Like we have the robust programming with like our AP programming, our a lot of like transition to career, like work study. We have a lot of different programs out
We're
there.
not, I want to say, we're not throwing out, we're still, all schools are college and career ready, and that is what every high school is focused on. And so we're not gonna throw out all the strategic plan, the goals that we have for more minorities and AP classes. I mean, all of those goals will stay the same. We will tweak our strategic plan based on whatever, we choose as our strategic plan, but I don't, our basic commitment to really a whole child, or offering a whole child environment is not, I mean, we're not all of a sudden going to be just talking engineering, or science, or, it's just not going to happen. This school is too.
But I think that we were already taught those things, right? Before the pandemic hit, we already had conversations on the possibility of doing in addition to college and career in STEAM. So we were already in discussions with CTAE and their coordinator about what that looks like for us, because if we look at our scores in AP, in math and science, and look at the offerings in technology, we were already aligning ourselves to those kind of ideologies. So it's not one or the other, it's in conjunction with.
And does STEM, by the way, for acronyms like science, technology, engineering, and math, right? And A adds arts.
Yeah.
I feel like a secretary, teacher secretary, like we're throwing a lot of acronyms around. That you made a comment before talking about like getting the other teachers on board. Do those in a STEM or STEAM school, if I'm as a social studies teacher, do I have to meet science, technology, engineering, and math requirements in the classroom?
So yes and no. You have to have an intercurricular project, and we don't want to do things like work and business slide.
Right.
But there are intercurricular projects. Do you have to teach math and social studies class? No, not explicitly. But you already teach math in a social studies class. We're talking about economics and culture.
Yeah.
So it's changing how it's perceived and looking at, well, if you did it a cross-curricular project, what aspect can you provide in an English class that would support that project? Not, I need to teach all of these things in my specific class.
So I became STEM certified, and one of my big things that I built my program around is when we read Frankenstein, we went into the biology and science part of that.
And like with IB, the whole premise of that is a worldview. local, global, so that's how they immerse it in all their classes. So, I mean, we just have to go through the process and see what it, but like Ms. Collins says, we already do so much already. I just don't think we're talking about a huge shift in our focus.
I don't really either. I think that's kind of like what I'm listening. I'm just, just kind of thinking about, teaching band. I can't teach band without teaching history. I can't teach band actually without teaching physics. I have to teach physics of sound in order to teach band. Math, like we have to, it's in there, all that's already in there. I just think that, when it's already interdisciplinary already, in most of our classes. And if we're kind of not teaching that way already, then we already have some, that's already a problem.
It's a little bit of a shift in the way you think of
The wording.
aligning our lessons and things like that, but not a huge shift in what's happening in our classes already.
Yeah, and
If that makes
pedagogy and
sense.
philosophy of instruction. I don't think that's the shift. I think it's more so just on paper, like that is just, the documentation with the lesson planning, I see that being more tedious and monotonous than anything.
Yes.
But I mean, if it's something, it's like,
For all the
you're-
A people in STEM, yes.
Right.
that's key.
yes, absolutely. So.
Okay, all right, so more to come. So let's talk a little bit about milestones. Our data from milestones very, very weak because very few children took the milestones, but it's important to have this as a basis. So we'll just let you look at that. I don't want to go through all this data, but this is based on the spring of 2021. If anybody has any question.
And the average number of students who are taking these largely renders this like irrelevant. Is that fair to say? Because like when I look at like US history comparison to Algebra 1, like we don't know Algebra 1's freshmen, so more kids would have been compliant and showed up versus like juniors and seniors would have been more aware of like that this doesn't matter and probably not have shown up. You know what I mean? There's just like unlimited variables that will take this data.
Right.
You
And
can
send
compare it across interdiscipline anyway, you can compare it, the trend of students taking US history, but the caveat is, like you said, there were so many areas that we cannot, in good conscience, put this data within any of the trend data. So it just depends on, honestly, the student and the parent, as to whether or not they came. It was interesting to see the number of virtual students that actually came with the test. So it just depended on the person and being that it only affected their grade, 0.01%. There was no way extrinsic. So the data is the data.
What would you say now?
Yeah, as soon as we get through this slide, we have more data to show you.
Oh, yeah, about
Is the data just, I know this is like really steep data because of the numbers that took it. Are we always that much higher than the rest of the district? Is it usually that gap between?
It depends on the test and it depends on the saying. This is just in comparison to the district average. So yes, traditionally we outperform the district. I mean, because you said in comparison to the district.
Yeah, I mean,
versus individual schools.
Yeah, I mean, because you're like 82 to 39. I mean, let's see, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty significant gaps. I'm just curious, if it's it's on a normal year, like if we know pandemic. What would those
I don't
numbers-
necessarily think that is that, like what you're saying.
That's just
eighty,
percentage.
that is percentage participated in the actual assessment.
Gotcha.
That
Okay.
was enrolled in person class.
Gotcha, that's what I was wondering, okay,
So let's.
that makes sense. I was like, oh
This
my
is
God.
the take rate, essentially the participation rate of each assessment. So that's not the score, that's just the participation rate.
Gotcha.
Additionally, the state requires 95% participation rate. And I think most schools in the district get to close to that 99%. And then this is the percentage of students that tested that was virtual. And the comparison there. Then you have the students who were enrolled in general, and then the students that tested compared to how many students were enrolled, 8% for history, and 19% for biology. And then this is American literature, so again, you can't say that the juniors the freshmen, if you got a 26% for a middle course, that actually success, so that's why I said it just depends on the person versus what grade level you're in. And then the bottom of each quartile, quadrant shows how students perform for proficient and above. Noting that the state will give you credit for developing and above, but the district will only focus on proficient and above. Well, and I can note that the 60% at proficient or above for biology, even though you're not supposed to compare it, is about what they do when everybody. I was like, biology. Yeah. Right, math data.
So we did the math, we're still in the math window, it closes theoretically today. But this is how we put a stack up at this point after all those exams, 2,789. They're at midterm. So you're going to ask them about a comparison across the district. Really, the school that we are very closely aligned with is actually Mount Classical Academy, which is a charter school. And I guess charter school. We have very similar schools to that. That's.
They don't include,
Are they in there?
they don't bother including the charters in the.
I don't know that the chart, we don't have the charter data. I don't know what they did with math. Yeah,
I don't know that they were
They may not.
required.
they cannot choose, they can choose their own. So,
What are the colors?
This is the lower, or is that like the 20? Right. I think people look like. So,
Are you talking about the actual percentage score?
yeah.
Okay.
This is
So the top
combined
18% is in the blue.
Percentile of all students who take this test, like across the country. Like
No.
42% of our students are in the top.
No. This is the score, the percentile of the score. Yes,
Of like their compared, because everybody gets a different test, right? So it's like, this is top 20% of nationally, all students take the test, 42% of our kids are in the top 20% of math test takers.
This is just district. This isn't national.
no, it is compared to the. I don't want to say national data, it's really like standard deviation of a set mean. And it's done that way with data lagging. So not exactly that, and it's not exactly.
What is this?
we don't have the subgroup data yet. We don't, this is just a general, we show you all today. We don't have the breakdown of.
He's saying is that, so let's say most boards are between 200 and 300, if I made a 250, then probably if I fair, that's the percentile that I did, so if the 250, which I don't know their exact numbers, but it is not from this current school year,
that you're getting the numbers from. You're putting it on a norm curve and getting the percentile of students that score in that language.
And the colors
Correspond to the closer you get to being, the higher the
You
percentile.
want more blue. So you're somewhat pleased with what we see in the colors.
Considering the national conversation
Yeah,
and, the concern with,
yeah. Right,
unlearned,
right.
standard, then yes.
Okay.
And this is by grade level or cohort. Same information, this is still combined math and reading scores all together.
Just to let you all know, the Division of Academics is doing cluster-specific conversations around this and the academic recovery plan. So that could be your opportunity to discuss. You can, the go-to office send an email to you all with like SPOS meetings and those academic meetings. If you want to go and catch them. I'm afraid I can't remember what the date is for next month.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, looking at this, like, it's exciting to see if I'm interpreting this correctly, that our percentile scores are getting better as they get older. So like, that would, I'm like thinking about like, what are we shaping and then having 12 experience here and same kids. Just, you know, if we're, I guess maybe it's drop out though, so it's hard to know what that. Some kids might need school to drop out by 11 to 12.
I really don't know that I would compare it that way.
Okay.
I would more so compare it to this baseline that we've never taken the math, so I can't say that they're getting better as they get older. That, that they data show the difference.
Yeah, this is the first time we've given this test, so we can't compare like that. I mean,
These are against national numbers, though, right?
yeah, but what I'm saying is you can't say the 12th graders do better than,
Oh, yeah.
you just don't have any comparison.
This is just baseline data.
Right, I'm just focused on Midtown High School right now and seeing what I like is, first of all, I'm pleased with this. I feel like our kids are in pretty good shape. It's a lot better than I thought it was gonna be. So I feel really good about that. Once we get our subgroup data, we'll know based on our school achievement plan where we really need to hit with our efforts. But I saw it over the weekend, I was like, okay, this is not as bad as what I thought it was gonna be. I think our kids held on really well during the pandemic. I think they held on.
And we only got access to these graphs that you're seeing on Friday. So we have not diving in the data, which is good. We're really probably the worst people to see. I'm trying to do it.
And this is
They
supposed
really
to be
encouraging the
some kind
teachers.
of predictor. I mean, you know, again, this is the first time we've given this, so I don't even want to say this is a predictor of what's going to happen in April. We have to live with this. We have to, you know, we just have to see. You know.
What I do think is encouraging based on looking at the data is that it seems that the students took it seriously. So that when teachers are pulling their reports, which they can, they have access to it because they're not gone up at home. The access is pretty self-explanatory. It should be around. But it's encouraging that you can actually take the information from that and use it into the classroom, because it seems like students took it seriously, even when it's just so that's what I found encouraging, more than comparing it to somebody else or trying to figure out what it's predicting. It is kind of data that we can use to shape what is happening.
Even if it's not the cost of that needs to be corrected. I mean, just from a teacher experience side, of like, it was minimal interruption to my experience of like having one place for kids to made up reading and math and like announcements over the loudspeaker plus email, check your email at the top of your email. Like it was seamless. And the way that,
For the first time rolling it out, especially.
yeah.
I'll share that with the
saying, we respect
Well, we really, really appreciate it.
for parents, we gave them like 45 hours of administrative time to get it done.
So
now,
we have a school achievement, school improvement plan, and you have this thing right here. In your notes, there are things that we're gonna be focusing on as a school, or school achievement, school improvement plan is SIP. My intent is not to go through this at all, it's to share that with you at this point.
it's a live document, it's ever changing, which is the important thing. Started as a draft prior to getting data on students, about, you know, the hundred of people that took them out. So this is a work in progress, but, there's a residual, a whole child goal, which goes into what we'll be doing for the next couple of weeks. On the next page, of the back of the page, looking at, you have the graduation goal. And we can say where we're coming from, because it's not the graduation, like, so we don't know exactly what they were doing. And then, a college and career readiness goal, the goal is really based on information from 2019, so with them to know exactly what the goal, because a lot of how we are applications in 2019. So when we, what we're doing at the school, so part of monitoring, and then the strategies that we're looking at to address the APS 5, which is curriculum instruction, we have PLC, and what we're doing with the address the margin. So this is what we have come up with, like a fairly live document, it changes. There's a lot of things that are being thrust towards the whole child, try to get them acclimated to the traditional learning environment as opposed to being at home. And in the middle of the pandemic that we're having, so it's over. Then we're moving toward how can we use this map data to look at individualized students, what would that look like?
So I notice a few of these don't have funding source attached. Is that because we're still trying to determine how they will be funded, or is this just a process that naturally occurs in the kids?
Like
We're
which
still
one
trying to
give an
Like
example.
the targeting tutorials for students, you know, it says evidence and artifacts credit accrual, but there's no funding source there.
Because, and that's on the previous one,
Yeah, the 180 program, there's no funding.
because we don't fund that.
Okay, so it should have been, so it should say discipline. That's all I was wondering. Just want to make sure we.
So work in progress.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't want there to be a big question mark there. Hey, we need to find money for this.
Yeah, we're not at that point
Okay.
yet,
Yes, I know.
but like I said, this is trying to get the data and trying to see where we can use funds that we are. And then, the last one is really about what we consider the non-talking value program. And after the meeting that supposedly went to, we're going to adjust some of these things to reflect the information that we see just now.
And the general funds is the budget that we'll give them, they're not going to.
And we've already talked about that.
We've covered this. We do have some funding sources, the CARES Act. Is 279,000 general fund. We, you know, we're going to leveling, you know, which we've just gone through. We're about 44 students under what we were projected, which is fine. We have 15 48 as of today. That's fine. That's not 40 students is not there. It's not a problem. So we will be gaining a little bit of money because, well, you can explain this policy.
So, at the end of the budget cycle last year, we were in March, April, we had talked about that whole black that we did in case loans did not come out to our paper. That is $197,000. And because we're short 40 students, we have to give up $150,000 of like shortage of students. However, because we had the pandemic and we were able to keep them last year, that's at $47,000. And so then we had the differential from what we had to give her from what we left over and what was last year for personnel. Then you end up with the eight or that we need to incorporate into the actual budget.
So whether it's set as a school reserve, it's just a line item at some point, it's gotta be, the money has to be accounted for within the budget, is what you're saying. Okay.
And we did, when we voted, we did vote on some ways. I do want to say this 160 is about the number of each child is about $4,000. So with a little flamer, it rounds out to about 160 that they are taking that from that whole back. We just wanted to bring back those numbers from such a long time ago.
And who takes that money back from the state or is it EPS?
Well, it's usually-
The district is the money
Yeah.
that they allocate.
So come out of the general fund. Because if you have 100 kids, you have 96,
And it's technically kind of full because they give that money per person. And so then.
And then, so like, how does that, if they take the money, then what do they do with the money? Do they reallocate or do they go back to the state?
Well, there might be some schools that have over.
They might just move it.
So North Atlanta has over what they were projected, so they get more money.
Right.
So that's, the money's just reallocated to other schools.
Just really quickly, funding from the state lags. So the funding that came from the state is based off of the October 2020 counts.
And because of March.
Well, no, because when they set the budget, yeah, they only have the October, ones, because by March, so the state doesn't usually, I've never heard the state take the money.
Okay.
Because it's not based off of this year's enrollment, it's based on previous year.
So a lot of schools lost money. Yeah, a lot of schools.
Makes sense.
So does that, I mean, I guess, so we're fine, I guess, okay, so,
We didn't budget for that 197. So the budget that we have to use does not include that 197,000.
okay,
What the last voting did was that if we do get this money back, what are some ways that we can get that to schools? And that was one. And so now, instead of having 97, to go around it, we ended up with 84. So that's.
okay. Better than nothing.
It's in the plus column. That's what it takes. That's what we want.
Really some of that reserve and reserve.
Or they can be folded maybe at this point now based on what. We go back and look at it. And then we allocate that one over.
You say, do you foresee a possible deficit moving forward for the next year? You see, I'm thinking a year ahead.
You can't roll over with 10%, whatever. Gotcha. So holding that, even with the $8,000.
We've never got rolled.
All right, and so we're trying to end with, I think, the strategic plan review, the same strategic plan from before, keeping in mind that it has to be changed in 2022.
I'm sorry, we'll update this, like, where it says, I'm just, under school strategies, this year, several CPA programs will begin the process of achieving industry certification. We got some of that last year, we have some, that- I mean, we'll update
We have
this.
two that we have this year.
Right, we'll update this just to get current with this. You know, the process, the plan, all that goes into this. This is a 5-year plan. You know, this is what we've been working on, so our job is to kind of.
Change it again.
Right, but we'll update it with the stuff that is school specific, it's not coaching, and we'll have this, you know, updated for next time.
Isn't there a new
They're
format?
changing the format.
There's a new format for this. There's no-
Yeah.
So the cluster's doing the plan, the cluster's doing its own plan.
Right.
Yeah, there, I mean,
Cluster plans this year.
there's a need format for how this is done, but the whole team doesn't. do the strategy.
And you all have, I gave you this like the last meeting. But we'll send this out to you as well. And it'll be posted, the whole thing. So.
So one of our tasks is to provide this. What pieces of this?
Your task right now is to review it, to see if you want to revise it, and then the task, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, for the 2023 after cluster strategic plans have been created, then they'll be tasked with creating the.
Yeah, the 22 to 25.
Yeah,
So like these performance measures are what we work on for 5 years. That has been our guiding light for the past 5 years. And we've met or exceeded, we continue to focus on them, so.
and really the whole team is making that process, what they started with was what are the key priorities, so those for budget, we take this here. And then every year we organize to see what is our main priority for budget. And then when after the vote team came up with these statements, then they said, well, how are we gonna measure if the school has met those things? And so then the vote team came up with the performance measure. So the change or what is going to be tasked as you all and a work plan for you is, are these priorities changing and how we're going to.
I just had a question. So on the slide before this one, I noticed it's like MD and all that, but business and stuff. So in like a few of my classes, there's like a standard version and only few students have access to the upgraded with the EDU or something, which allows access to import media, which is needed to complete the assignments.
So that's a teacher list, the teacher, or y'all don't put the teacher.
Teachers that have access to that.
Not to
Maybe they
control
actually
it,
start
but
to,
to
like,
make sure
change
that
it.
you all are going through the right way to access it. And if there is a glitch in the IT side of getting the access to the full with account, then we can look. But if you and your peers can let the teachers know that these present. Great question. Look at the secretary.
In the administration's opinion, like on this next slide, like how much do you anticipate or you think it's healthy if changes versus stays the same? Like as I go to, you know. Something come down the road.
The cluster decides too.
Right.
So it's all gonna be. Next one.
I think that you have to make sure that we take the APS 5 to guiding the next 5 years of our work, right? And then take the cluster plan that's guiding the next 4 years of our work. And then you have to determine whether or not these statements align with those things or how we working out of sync. And if we working out of sync, we have to be more efficient at work, be more
And so what can we do to align ourselves with other criteria and measurements that we set forth by the district as a cluster in order to make that function? So change, relative, but making sure you're aligning to where you want. Pulling it in. The goals, doesn't have to be.
Well, I think if you look at these priorities and you look at performance measures, I mean, they're all, which you would say whether or not you have STEAM, STEM, or anything
Right,
else,
yeah,
right?
it is,
I
right.
mean, it's good stuff. They're nice broad strokes. So,
Like, if you look at 8A, build and renovate facilities to address current capacity and innovation in the work environment. So we've done that. We can, probably take that off of the, or we'll just say continue to, that there's things that, right, we need to revise just this year.
There's a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
And, I mean, one of the,
A lot of stuff has gone down.
Yeah.
also remember that the district had its new strategic plan with its new goals and guardrails, so this aligned to the last strategic plan versus, yeah. And I think they've actually put in the measures now that they want to use, so. And that's why Travis is going to be leading all the teams in those work sessions. There are 3 work sessions that we'd like to attend as many people of the team as possible together.
Okay. So while it's still on here,
Do they need to vote about whether or not they want to change the strategic plan or the?
So one, it's important to remember that strategic plans are what we call living documents.
Right.
You review it every year, it's updated. Correct. 2, considering that the district has a new strategic plan with this APS 5 and the new focuses, it's not really a choice this year to look at your strategic plan. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't support some of what's already in there, but there might be some new additions based upon the districts. We want the graduation rate to do this, that's there are things. But Travis will lead you through all of that, but because of the new APS strategic plan, yours is going to get.
Well, I was trying to make sure we're meeting the criteria for today.
Yeah, no, that's all right.
But we do need to decide the work group. And there's times where it was the 2nd and the 5th, and there was a 4th.
Yeah, the morning of October 2nd, and then the 4th and 5th, and the 5th and the 6th. I'm sorry.
And those are for work groups, they would choose that particular category, or just a bunch of data.
No,
No, that would be a,
he would task you with responsibility of what you are to be for the start of school, what that new strategic plan would look like. So he doesn't just say, make a strategic plan, go forth and prosper. It's scaffolded with those activities and he's giving you those sessions so that he can work with you and answer questions and provide clarity and guidance around making sure we align with it.
Diane, do you have the times?
I want to say the Saturday morning one was like 9 to 11. One I think was from 4:30, 4:30, 6:30. I think the other one's like 5 to 7. Please do not quote me on those. And
We
I
have to
can't.
move on, so we have to.
We need to make a decision now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because you need to register by the 27th.
Yeah, it's in the little forms. Second, 9th, 11th, just Saturday, Monday, 4:30 to 6:30, Tuesday, the 7th.
Okay, so we really have just about. Stay to it. We need to ask the public comment, see if there's no public comment, because the person wanted to raise a question. Do all that. That's fine.
So is there public comment? No public comment?
we just moved to our Diane, we'll just ask for public comment. Okay. Okay.
I'm fine, like tabling with, what I wanted to raise is late. I just want to name that, like, I hope this space, the go-to space can be a place where, like, we have a lot of people that care about the school and stakeholders in different places, that I hope this can be a place where we can workshop, challenges that are really affecting the school. And from a teacher's experience so far, teachers are very concerned about, like, what's going on system-wide, not school-wide, around staffing, substitutes, and increased pressure. And I hope we can figure out ways to collaborate and with the district, with school, et cetera, to try to address that.
Well, can I just make a possible suggestion, at least on the Go team?
Yeah.
This is a passion for you. Could you maybe come up with something that we could kind of communicate outside of the actual meeting to see if there's a way that we can be prepared when we come, we can say, these are some options that Dr. Bachman suggested, or whatever the case may be, so that then, we can do something, and I'll gladly help you outside of this if I can. But maybe that way we can get in there.
I think it's like talking to district people as well for an opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a little hard sometimes as a teacher to understand how to talk to district at all. I don't know everybody feels that, but yeah, anyway.
But if you like, I just feel like that's probably the best, most productive way that we can be prepared to.
Yeah, I know in the first we have what's called local school council, which is what the business and that local school council can often invite people from the district to come, use its facilities and stuff like that, but to come and talk about things.
Yes, correct.
The local school council, any questions about things, that kind of thing. I think we can always invite somebody to come to a meeting. HR person, facilities, academics, that kind of thing. We can definitely do that. But we are gonna they're getting funding for 2 permanent substitutes, like we had last year, we had 4, but that is coming in the next couple of weeks.
Were they just floaters? Were they just show up?
Plug them in, they were used every day last year, because we had such a high rate of absences, teachers and staff.
Right.
The problem this year is the locating substitute. It's not that, we had $80,000 there that we could hire other people to come in. It's locating people that want to do things. It's not like you can't find bus drivers, you can't find substitutes, you can't find food substitutes. So it's not a question of the money not being there, it's a question of the workforce. Right now.
And you're competing with, other
School.
districts.
Yeah, I think Hobbs, like, it's ridiculous, like,
$195.
it's like up there, that's almost a teacher's salary.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe I
it's-
should be a star.
Yeah. All right. So can we pick one of these 3 dates and at least put that one on the docket for the, it's a virtual, right?
Yes.
Because it's a virtual strategy thing. So, a Saturday morning rather than an afternoon, evening. Does anybody have a preference?
I know for that October 2nd, we have a thing.
Well,
All
it's-
those,
well, they just want us to
As
choose.
many
The
people.
preference is to have as many people for the team as possible, because it is going to be geared to working through getting to something that.
Yeah,
And then
Right,
they
I was
attend
gonna say
their
the same
team.
thing.
yeah, they want us to attend as a team, so there's many people. If there's only 3 of us can make it, whatever. If it's
I can do that Monday, I could do on Monday, that's what I'm gonna do.
the 4th, 4:30 to 6:30. Yeah. I can
What
do that.
if,
The 4th, October 4th, 4:30 to 6:30.
sounds fine.
Otherwise, it's the 5th, 7 to 9.
I'm probably out that Monday.
We're also trying to do,
Curriculum night.
curriculum night in there too, so we just have to divide and conquer, we just.
Right.
I can attend either the Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
I can do Tuesday.
I can do that Monday, Tuesday. March 3rd. Actually, Tuesday is APS showcase, so I'm out like for.
So Monday or Tuesday seem to be options. Is there a preference to the Monday rather than the Tuesday?
Yeah, that's fine. Or it may be Monday.
Okay, let's just say the Monday, and as many people can make it.
I
Yeah,
think
make it,
that
you can make it.
Tuesday is parent conferences, you know, the first and third. Is that parent conference day?
Yeah,
The
but
Tuesday.
that one is 7 to 9.
Well, let's just say October
Yeah, I'll
fourth,
try to make
30 to
it.
6. Okay.
I'll say by
I will agree.
Are you with Plaga?
What, I'm sorry, I'm just putting it in.
You're gonna submit
Okay,
it.
I'm just putting it in our announcements, but what exactly, how do I describe what this is?
We can get the verbiage that they sent out. It was in the email.
Yes.
The one that came out on Monday, not last Friday.
Are they conferences in person? In person?
Virtually.
No.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Yes.
It was literally like, it's on Tuesday, so I'm like, I have to go get changed, run to the
Right, right,
cafeteria, go meet parents and run back to practice.
So, announcements registered for strategic plan workshop, which is what we just did, no public comment. Are there any last issues before I ask for motion to adjourn? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I don't know.
Motion? Second? We're adjourned. Okay. So October 4th and the 6th.
Oh, no, she asked what the curriculum night will be on. So,
We're doing the new format of virtual.
A virtual and a personal, or is it all?
So that y'all are all coming up here that we're trying to do a special like office hours.
Yeah.
It's in progress, but it seems pretty neat to go working on. So we need to roll this out for teachers.
And that's September 20th.
What's the different, make it see,
Okay. Okay.
trying to minimize teacher time and trying to make it, effective.
Yeah, I know Howard did theirs. And they didn't have much, I mean, maybe 5 kids per class. They were lucky.
Yeah, it kind of is interesting.
Yeah, yeah, some had us died. Yeah.
Okay, so we adjourn.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.